Hi, this is Greg McCoach, editor of the Mining Speculator. I'm here today at the Metals Investor Forum in Toronto, Canada, with President and CEO Dave Cole, EMX Royalty Corp. Dave, welcome to the interview.
Always my pleasure to talk to you, Greg.
Yep. So, for us, as we just saw in the question and answer period in your presentation, you have such a large knowledge base to try to convey to investors. A 10-minute interview or a 10-minute Q&A or a 10-minute presentation in front of the investors, it's hard to get all that you would like to say. And so we just have to hit on the highlights, of course. But in my view, as I've always said, you're my number one stock. You've been my number one stock for a long time.
Appreciate
that. To
that.
me, you represent the best value at current prices. You're so undervalued for what you've accomplished and what the company is making major benchmarks now. So we're in this bear market. No one seems to care. This is the time to buy. This is what I'm trying to stress to people. You've got to buy when the news is bad. And the news is really bad, it looks like, but yet you're doing amazing things.
The market sentiment is bad.
The market sentiment, right?
Yeah.
So you have so much to highlight, and I would just recommend, that investors go on the website and get an education. But for the purposes of this interview, we have 10 minutes, right? So we want to just focus on the highlights, and I'll let you direct that as far as what.
Why don't we start with cash flow?
Cash flow. There you go.
We just announced yesterday record annual cash flow, cash coming into the company totaling $37 million over the year 2023. That's a watershed year for us, and it does me great delight to know that after we've been building this portfolio for over 20 years, and I've been saying many times for years now, this is going to become a cash cow. It has happened,
right? And
these assets are producing, and of course we have over 160 royalties worldwide, but we need to talk about the most salient couple, right? So we'll talk for a minute about Timok and Serbia, where we have multiple royalties within the Timok magmatic complex. This is one of the biggest copper gold development stories in the world, and it's the largest copper gold deposit ever found in the history of Europe.
For sure.
And Zijin, who is a very aggressive operator, they know how to get metal out of the ground. Right? So often in today's world, mining companies say we're going to produce X by Y year, and they don't make their predictions. Zijin consistently overproduces what they say that they will do.
What a great partner, right?
They're one of the best partners to have, and we've had some people say, well, is he going to treat you correctly and whatnot? And they're a very honorable company.
Yes.
And we're just delighted to have them as a counterparty on that project. They're doing great things for the country of Serbia and for the royalty holder. Yeah. So, right now they're in production at 2 upper zones. So that's now disclosed on their website. You can see a really cool GIF that rotates showing the mineralized body. I recommend everybody go to their website to see that. They also show the resources in the upper zones, 2 upper zones now, and the lower zone. Those numbers continue to augment. We're talking about a mineral system that combined is approaching 2.5 billion tons.
This is going to be in production for decades, right?
A
decade or more.
No, half a century.
Decades.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, absolutely decades. If you look at current block caving technology, and if you only used one block cave at a time, we're talking about production going out to plus 2074.
Right, and this potentially.
So they probably will institute more than one block cave at a time.
Right.
When they get to the lower zone. Right. And that's speculation on my part.
Right.
But certainly we can all look at the reserve that are published on their website and start to do some mental math with respect to what that looks like. And I want to point out that mineralized body is extending down a plunge line.
Right.
And we own the royalty on the west side of that as well.
Wow.
And the royalty there is 3 times higher than the royalty that we have on the main zone. Wow. So we go from a 0.3625% royalty on all mineral production forever on that license.
Wow.
We cross over, and as that mineralization, which is at its thickest and highest grade point, is right next to the boundary. So the next drill holes will take it over that boundary. And it's very high likelihood that mineralization will extend onto our royalty, which is 2% on gold and silver and 1% on all other metals in perpetuity for all metal production on the license.
Talk about as good as it gets on a royalty. Yeah.
This is one of the key royalties in the world not controlled by a major royalty company. And I will point out this is a little bit of bragging on my part,
Right.
if you don't mind.
No,
Yeah,
go ahead.
we own these royalties for $200,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Because we used our royalty generation business model, and because we bought these royalties, some of them we generated, some we purchased, and we did that very early on. We were part of the awakening of what the mineral potential was here.
Right.
And now it's paying off.
Right.
Yeah.
And, that's just the starters. That, talking about good mining partners to be in business with on a royalty, you have another great project, Caserones. And that's Lundin
Yes.
mining group, right? I mean, talk about it gets better, right?
Yep, that's the next one I want to highlight.
Yeah.
And these are the two within our portfolio that are company-making assets.
Yeah.
Timok with Xinjiang in Serbia, and Caserones, operated by Lundin in Chile. The one in Serbia is copper gold. The one in Chile is copper molybdenum. Molybdenum prices are doing very well right now.
Yeah.
It's a nice byproduct credit. Last year, the total top line revenue into EMX was $10.7 million from Caserones.
Wow.
Lundin has announced to their shareholders they expect to increase production by 27% over the course of the next 2 to 3 years. So that's to our benefit. They have also announced an aggressive exploration program, and they highlighted the top prospects that they intend to test. Number one was testing the existing Caserones mineralization further at depth, where they have indication of what they call high-grade breccia bodies.
Yeah.
So we're very excited about that. Number two was another new porphyry discovery called Angelica, which is completely within our large royalty footprint. We have a large royalty footprint at Caserones that extends to near the Los Helados discovery to the south, up through Caserones within this very well-endowed region of the Earth's crust. So this is another company-making asset, very long, multi-decade mine life here as well, with another great operator, Lundin.
Yeah, well, we could go on and on. You have 160 royalties, over 200 projects. You're so well diversified, right? And this is what I'm saying. It's so hard for us to even try to dent all that you have in terms of investors, trying to help them understand just how good this royalty portfolio is. But I think the revenues are going to point the way and show that this is quickly approaching a $50 million revenue a year model that is going to get the attention of a lot more people. So
it's great to have that current revenue. That's fantastic. And those are arrows in our quiver for us to grow the portfolio further. Yeah. But the real reason why you want to own royalties is discovery optionality.
Right.
And so we have this hundreds of kilometers of drill holes a year going into our portfolio across the assets, being paid for by counterparties, adding resources at no cost to us.
Right.
That's the beauty of it.
You're using other people's money to make the discoveries for you. And that's a credit to you and your organic model for going after it. You have the expertise to control that. So what a wonderful model. I can't say enough about it. You'll always be my number one. And
well, we appreciate that. Yeah.
So last comments, we have just a few minutes left, and you want to summarize for us?
Well, I think it's appropriate to have a Rick Rule quote, right?
Right.
This industry, this sector is famous for its pronounced cycles.
Yes.
So as Rick says, you want to use those cycles to your advantage rather than be used by the cycles.
Right.
And we see sometimes people get disenamored and blow off their stock during downturns and then end up bemoaning that later on.
Right.
So, you need to really step up and buy stock during the worst of times.
Absolutely.
And use those cycles to your advantage.
Yes, we're in a contrarian moment. I personally have expressed as loudly as I possibly can in the most explicit terms. Now is the time. Buy these things when they're at rock bottom from where they should be. And you're going to be very happy when all of a sudden the light switch goes to the on position and it's game on again for us. So,
and we've seen it multiple times in our career.
We have. And I always tell people you have to do it before it happens, because once that light switch goes on, the first move is where the big money is made, right off the get-go. But a company like yours that's well heeled for the future with all this, like you said, revenue generation, portfolio creation, decades-long production, attachment, royalties. I mean, amazing, right? I don't know of anybody else in the junior mining sector that's done a better job.
Oh, there's a lot of good folks out there.
There's a lot, of course. But you've done exceptionally well, Dave. In 22 years that I've known you, when you first started, down in New Orleans when we met, and I started following Eurasian Minerals, right? Wonderful story. Hey, always a
Thank you so
pleasure.
much.